Well, it's an end of an era in Kansas City as they've decided to part ways with their longest tenured player. This is RGR. I'm Ryan, and I am solo again, going rogue. Welcome back. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit the drop down button on notifications, as well as leave a thumbs up if you like what I'm talking about and how I'm doing it. And please leave your comment below. Let's have a conversation because this is pretty rarefied air at this point. 15 years for Dustin Colquitt has come to an end in Kansas City. And it's been on the table for quite a while, something that we knew that could happen. But it just kept plodding along, and we thought maybe it was just going to be status quo. And at this point, after winning the Super Bowl, you have to think that his career is pretty complete. I just feel like I wanted to make this video just a comment on what a transition it's been. Andy Reid's been in Kansas City for 7 years. So there's a good chunk of that time spent with Dustin. And he's been the stalwart, obviously. A little bit more than half of his tenure was without Andy. But it's a significant chunk being with Andy Reid. And it's not a coincidence that when other players have retired and have decided to call it quits, like Jamal Charles, like Derek Johnson, it's Dustin Colquitt that's been there when they come into the facility to give them their jersey or whatever the team's doing for them and make a big deal out of their retirement. They're moving on to the next phase of their life. And I hope that the same is given to Dustin. I don't know if he's going to retire yet or not, but he may. If I were him, I would probably be looking to do that because, quite frankly, when you're in a locker room with people that you know, no matter how few of them are left from when you began, it becomes a little bit more of a family atmosphere for you, even though the Chiefs are actually pretty active in trying to push that mentality of being a family, of being more than just teammates, work friends, you know what I mean? So it's one of those deals that I don't know if I were him, if I'd want to move on and try to go to another team. I know his brother has had a couple of teams, and I feel like Dustin's still kicking pretty well. So I think there is an opportunity out there for some team to be interested in bringing him in. I just don't know if it's going to happen. But regardless, he's been that hardcore, steady guy in Kansas City for so long. This is more significant to the culture of the locker room than I think a lot of media are giving it. So I wanted to throw my comments out this morning over coffee. So it's the aftermath at this point, the coming down point of the draft. After having gone through all of that preparation and all that streaming of draft weekend, and thank you all for who are here. This is kind of the sorting out of what the results of that were. So, getting the UDFA signed, that has a big leg, and more importantly, and I think this is what it comes down to, I think what they've been struggling to find is somebody that they like the way not only that he kicks in terms of hang time and distance, the power of the leg, but the accuracy as well. I think they found that in Jack Fox. I think they probably didn't move forward with that because of the holding aspect of it. And as we've seen the need for the punter go down in the Mahomes era, I think that's really emphasized how well and how much experience you have holding for kicks to try and continue to help Harrison Butker continue his development. So introducing some kind of change of inconsistency in who your holder is really does make a difference on your kicker. And that's the way points are coming. It is to the point now where the kicker is actually performing more plays than the punter is. That's a nice thing to have. That is an effective of Mahomes in the offense, hitting its stride, and becomes something that kind of lessens what the punting aspect of it is. I think it was 2017 or 2016 where Colquitt had 80 punts. That's pretty consistent. Then this last season, 53. That's quite a drop off. I mean, we're talking, 30, 25 at least percent of your work effort drops off. So it comes back to that holding, and I think that's going to be the key. That's the thing to watch when you're watching this battle is who is holding for Butker the best with fewest issues, double clutches where he has to reset or anything like that. Because the shortened timeline of the offseason, that's going to be tough, trying to break in a new holder with Winchester and Butker and try to get it all in sync without having those reps. And we still don't know what the schedule is going to be. There's talk of it going all summer long, meaning training camp could be delayed or shortened. The season could be shortened. There could be a lot of things here. So I think that it's an interesting time to take the chance on getting somebody new in that position. But the Chiefs have decided to do that. It seems like Colquitt was not really happy with it, but nobody really is when it's time for them to call it a career, or at least a career with your original team. So the number of contracts, the number of extensions, the number of restructures that he's been able to do, I think there was probably still room to do that, but I feel like the team wants to get younger, and that's part of this process in getting somebody that they had their eye on in terms of a replacement possibility and actually getting him signed. Now, the UDFA class is interesting across the board. We're going to talk about that a little bit, but the other thing that I want to cover is Laurent Duvernay-Tardif. And just if you didn't see the article in SI that he wrote, or the recap that are on a lot of other media outlets about his transition, meaning after the Super Bowl, Tardif in February was in the Caribbean, sailing around, something that sounds really great. If you're a competent sailor moving from island to island in a rented sailboat, that's kind of a neat adventure. I would be tempted to do it. I've sailed for quite a number of years back in my youth, but that's a little unexpected that I thought that would be more stress than it was relaxation. But he got to the point where he had to cut that vacation short because of the restrictions getting back into Canada. So that was a significant step that I felt really signified the turning point for him, and he went and he wanted to continue. He's working on a residency. I think that's on hold as of this point from what I read. But the interesting part to me was that he communicated with the Chiefs about wanting to go back into healthcare and right now needing to help his community in Montreal or near Montreal. So the Chiefs apparently gave him full flight to do that. I think the restructure was probably part of that process. And I think allowing him to help where he can because of his unique skill set and getting his MD, I think that's stand up on his part, but stand up on the part of the Chiefs as well, because as your primary employer, you can make kind of restrictions on that in what is a contagion at this point. So I'll be very interested to see if he's able to stay healthy and quarantine himself. And as somebody that's working with people in susceptible environments, he is putting himself at risk more so than the average public. So I want to see what happens with him as well. Apparently he's training in his apartment, and that's all well and good, but that's not a structured off season that you would hope for a recovering Super Bowl looking to repeat. So we'll see what happens with that particular part. But those are two news stories. I'm going to be back tomorrow and try to deal with this Bashaud Breeland thing after we get a little bit more information. I don't have enough right now to feel comfortable about commenting on the whole thing. I've tried to use the Twitter timeline to update you guys on what I see that's important in terms of both sides and what the information is, but there just isn't a ton out there. So at this point, I think we have to just kind of roll with it. So when I know more, I'll come back and comment on that. We're going to take it easy here as we get through. I'll probably do a grade on the Chiefs because that seems to be what everybody wants. I'm not too huge on that, but I'll give you guys my opinion. So I appreciate you checking this one out. To Dustin Colquitt himself, it's been a pleasure watching you in Kansas City. I hope that whatever you decide to do, that you're successful at it. I know that you will be, and I'm sure somebody has to take up the mantle of being the prankster in the locker room that you were so effective at being. So cheers to Dustin. Cheers to all of you for watching this one. If you are not subbed, please do, and hit that drop-down button, the sub button. Like and subscribe, as they say. So have a good Wednesday, and I'll talk to you next time.